built here. Thank you again to the Space Lizards who support this show on Patreon and have allowed us to donate $400 to the Penn Fed Foundation this month.
A fucking
Penn Fed Foundation for military heroes, helps veterans buy homes, school, pay the bills, and so much more. Hail Nimrod. Go to PennFedFoundation.org to find out more. Link in the episode description. I got a new Time Suck baseball tee in the store at badmagicmerch.com. Let's wear ball. I mean, if we can't play ball, at least we can wear it. And, make the summer feel a little more normal, right? There's several different options. Team Time Suck, Team Meat Sack. Even Ed Kemper's playing a little ball because he likes to swing a stick, mother. Okay. That being said,
goddamn Ed Kemper.
Let's get to the life. Bloody Times of a Dude, our Patreon spaces have been voting up for well over a year, attempting to make him a Monday topic. Ivan's been voted into the top 5 topics in our bi-monthly topic voting rounds about 30 fucking times. Not even kidding. Not exaggerating. And I'm glad we finally get to suck him. I can't stop, I can stop wondering if he's going to win or not. Ivan the Terrible story is a crazy one. It was fun to suck it.
General! My fucking hand hurts because I got to put on my
a lot of info to go over as usual.
medicine.
Here's how we're going to lay this bad boy out today. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about
fucking
the
hurts.
stars that came after
I
Ivan.
wish it didn't hurt. I wish I didn't have fucking
officially bizarre title similar.
What are these called? Fucking not.
Ivan's grandfather, Ivan the Great, also called himself Tsar in communications, but it was.
I don't even know what they're called.
With the Russian Church.
My brain's having a big old brain fart. They're called something. I don't know.
After seeing
my brain's
Ivan,
all
we'll look at what came before him.
Not working right now.
The century period of the Mongol rule of what is now Russian land by members of the Golden Horde, aka the Great State. We'll examine the rise of the Russian Orthodox Church that Ivan would align himself with and be anointed by. Without this
what happened to me?
There would be
nothing.
No
the hand medicine is something that I've had for a while because I need to get off these warts.
Many of Wallach's warrior nobles and keeping the rest afraid of him, and Ivan would do the same thing.
The hand medicine is for the
showing up in
warts.
Muscovy in the late 15th century, decades before Ivan's birth. And Ivan is said to have found and loved these tales. He was inspired by Vlad. Loved him, idolized him.
Hope you're doing well, General. Thank you for coming in. I do appreciate it.
Modeled his,
it's a nice Sunday.
Intimidating methods. I like this Vlad guy. I like how he puts many people on stick. Kill much rich people. Take money and land.
Hope everything's going well for you.
For murder thug, loyal to him. Vlad have no fucks to give. I like. No line. He not cross.
Right.
I like.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Get so much what he wants. Through much fear. I like. Let's read the book by Italian guy, Machiavelli. He say, it is better to be feared than loved. You cannot be both. Vlad would get that. I like it. He and me would no care about love.
I hope it's the best too.
To get a feel for,
I very much hope it's the best for everybody else too.
Examples of Ivan's most famous atrocities. We're jumping into today's timeline that will lead us through the history of Russia, evolving from a collection of.
I mean, personally, I always hope that everybody's having the best.
And that will also walk us through the major dates.
It was snowing earlier, but I don't enjoy the snow. It might still be snowing.
That we won't get
I don't know. Says the rain is stopping soon, so that'll be fun.
I hope it sounds interesting. Let's start and take a peek at the legacy of Ivan the Terrible, Ivan IV, first true Tsar of Russia, started by listing off some of the most famous czars.
We'll see. We'll see if the snow sticks. Who knows?
Boris
Good morning, evening.
Boris is good name. Boris, Godunov. Godunov. Such a great classic collection. Boris was one of Ivan's children of darkness, one of these professional torturers and rapists known as Opportunity. Boris had married the daughter of the head of the Opportunity, an especially ruthless dude, Malyuta Skuratov. To make a quick Star Wars analogy, if Ivan the Terrible was the evil emperor, Malyuta was his Darth Vader.
Hey, Nick.
That motherfucker was in charge of carrying out a number of the most terrible things that Ivan ordered.
I'm doing good.
Tsar Boris.
Aren't you having to go back to work today?
Han Solo, I guess. Now the analogy no longer works. He didn't have a Wookiee co-pilot, and he didn't have a good heart under his, facade of I only care about me. Boris became co-regent in 1584 following Ivan's death, appointed by Ivan on his deathbed to keep shit from crumbling into chaos until Ivan's son Theodore I was ready to rule. Boris would seize the throne in 1598 following the death of Fyodor.
Hoy, sweetie. Hoy, heathen. Yeah,
break,
just on bus now. Oh, damn.
During Boris's 7-year rule, he could do some nice things, like allow young Russian nobles to seek their education outside of Russia and Europe. He imported teachers into his empire. He cozied up with the kingdoms of Scandinavia, pursuing peaceful access to the Baltic Sea. And he also did some not so nice things. Boris made it illegal for Russian peasants to transfer their allegiance from one noble to another, thus cementing in place a key component of serfdom that would lead to an enormous
Nick, sorry I fell asleep in your stream.
People whose descendants would eventually rise up.
Guys, you're amazing and super stupendous, man. Well, you could come into the call and enjoy hanging out with me. You could just do that, you know that.
Factions and open meddling in Russian affairs by the nearby kingdoms of Poland and Sweden. Life for the average citizen would actually become worse.
I would love for you to hang out with me.
It was during the reign of Ivan the Terrible, which was saying a lot. It's going to be hard to believe by the end of this gory suck. Boris's reign would last until 1605. 8 years later, Tsar Michael I would rule. Michael I, mostly known for being really, really good at basketball. Motherfucker could dunk from the foul line all day. Huge hops. Primarily played shooting guard, but had an otherworldly all-around game. Even solid low down on the post, especially late in his career when his knees started to go and he had to rely more on kind of upper body strength. Of course, I'm talking about a different Michael now. Everyone else is talking about Jordan, and it felt right to throw it in. Michael I, mostly known for being the first
Boy.
Kicked off 3 centuries of one family
rule. It's going all right.
During and shortly after the time of trouble,
just a bit gassy.
Michael had to wait weeks before a suitably intact palace.
Bit gassy.
For him in Moscow to lead from because much of the city lay in
other than that
disarray.
Huh?
Michael would lead for over 30
Too much cheese.
No, I don't. I took cheese out of the equation.
Yes, it's true.
I don't know how you did that.
Both Poland and Sweden.
By not eating cheese.
Right now, pretty sure Vladimir Putin has never
possible.
No, we cannot. We might anger Sweden.
Impossible. Okay.
Probably never said something like, "Well, what would Poland think? We cannot risk incurring Poland."
But
time change. Next czar. Almost 40 years after Michael's first death, one of Russia's most famous czars, Peter the Great, would rule from 1682.
Hope you're doing well.
Peter was Michael's grandson. He's best known for his ruthless attempts to further westernize Russia.
Tired.
Oh, poor baby.
You'd be too if you put 8+ hours into the day and didn't get credit for it.
You got a minimum amount of credit. Not a lot of credit.
Fight me.
Okay. Okay.
Looking for royalty-free music?
Put 8 hours into that stream, and I was having fun, even with all the technical issues. And they're like, "Oh no, you didn't." Off.
Not too loud. Just loud enough.
Who's loud?
I just want to make sure that the non-copyrighted music I put on is not too loud.
I'm gonna be anyway.
Oh no, poor baby. Are you gonna go to bed?
Not sure.
Unsure? You're not sure how you're feeling?
All I know is that I do have a 12:30 appointment.
You have a 12:30 appointment. Okay.
Yeah, I have a 12:30 appointment to go to my place of employment to get a booster.
Fun.
It's gonna be so fun.
Well, I mean, I need to make sure that I'm up to code of mine.
They recommend every 6 months. Did you get yours last?
Got mine last in October.
November, December, January, February, and March. Have to get it somewhere between March and April. Or no. somewhere between April and May. Because they don't want you to overlap them like that. That would have to be somewhere between April and May. Probably closer to May.
Well, it's gonna suck.
Yep.
But
a lot of people have been complaining that they've had symptoms of the virus after getting the booster. Sitting here like, guys, that's how the booster works. You're gonna have symptoms of the virus after getting the booster because your immune system is fighting off the booster as if it were the virus.
Yeah.
So it gets the antibodies it needs.
Yes. I am very confused why people don't understand that it's not a cure. It's not a cure. Like, not even the booster is a cure, and not even the regular shot is a cure. The vaccine is not a cure. Like, I don't...
The vaccine acts more like a cold or flu shot.
Yeah. It's supposed to give you the virus so your antibodies can make antibodies to fight the virus.
Right.
That's all it does. It doesn't do anything special.
Like, you're not gonna get full blown like COVID from it. Like, no, that's not what this does at all.
The virus.
It gives you like a dormant or dead cell for your body to recognize as a not okay organism. Your body then fights it in order to learn how best to combat it if it were to infect you.
Right. No, I know how it works. My mom was arguing with me about it, and I was like, you don't know how any of this works. And I told my dad about it, and he's like, yeah, no, it's basically like a small it's basically like a small cure. I'm like, no, you idiot.
It's not a small cure. It's a preventative measure.
You big dum-dum.
He's not a big dum-dum. He just doesn't understand.
Most people don't understand.
I know. And I don't have the time, patience, or energy to explain to everyone. And I don't get paid to explain it to everybody, so that's somebody else's job.
But I did want to thank Heaven for coming in, and it's okay, Heaven. He understands. People get sleepy.
I literally fell asleep on your stream the other night.
Yeah. I wasn't bothered by that. You thought I was bothered by that. I was very much not bothered by that. I thought it was adorable.
You're adorable.
If I was bothered by that, I would have kicked you from the call, but...
No, instead I have to wake up at 11:30 in the morning to be like, oh shit, the call's still running.
Yeah. And it asks, did you enjoy the call?
Like, I don't know, I missed a portion of it.
Missed so much of it. It snowed.
Yay.
It snowed, and I had to drive through that snow.
Hey.
And it was not horrible. It was serviceable.
So am I. What's your point?
It was all right. I survived the snow. It wasn't too bad. The truck that was supposed to be there at 8 a.m. got there at 9 at night. It's supposed to be there at 8 a.m. Got there at 9 p.m. That's a 12-hour difference. That's a 13-hour difference. Unloaded the truck. I had closed down the seafood department and everything, and I had to wait. So I was gonna leave at around 9:20. Left at around 10:03. So that was fun.
Sucks.
Yeah. Could have left earlier, but I didn't. So, you know. Oh well.
Poor baby.
That's life.
That seems to be the mantra going around.
Yeah. But
what's going on with my mother?
What's going on?
Her baby toe and big toe are gangrenous. They have her full of antibiotics at the moment, but there's no guarantee that those will even help. At the moment, all they're expecting is that the antibiotics keep the infection from spreading. But because of that, they're not expecting her to keep her baby and big toes. They're expecting to have to remove those because there's no circulation going through them.
Fun. So exciting. I don't have any real thoughts on that other than that sucks.
Yep.
So, you know, could be better, could be worse.
Yep. I mean, she keeps the majority of her foot, that's fine, but she loses her foot entirely. Like, I'm not equipped to handle that.
Yeah.
At all. She needs to have a long, hard conversation about her living situation.
Right.
I am not equipped to handle that. Whatsoever.
I mean, you aren't her nurse. But I don't know. But
I don't know what we're gonna do.
I don't know. I do know one thing. You know what that one thing is?
I love you.
I love you. I'm just glad that I get to hang out with you for even a little bit. But at least we know they think they're just gonna have to amputate that, which is fine, I guess. Is there any reason that it became gangrenous? Did they know why it became gangrenous?
Well, the thing is about 2 weeks ago, she was in the hospital because, she had poor circulation.
Mm-hmm.
They pumped her full of blood thinners, and it looked like it was doing its job, and then they sent her home. Because what I think happened is they didn't want to keep her over the holidays. And they're like, okay, if it gets any worse, come back.
Right.
Well, it did start to get worse, and I did tell her, if it gets any worse, you need to go into the hospital, before the new year. Didn't want to go back into the hospital before the new year. She wanted to stay at home for the new year. And on one hand, okay, I can't blame you for wanting to do that. On the other hand, bitch, take care of yourself.
Right.
Each time that you see the frontal system on there, that begins at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then you'll see the cloud pattern move until 2 o'clock this afternoon.
So now her foot has gotten completely out of control, and now she's going to be missing a couple of toes. I hate to be that asshole, but part of it is the hospital's fault. They should have forced her to stay and took better care of the situation.
Right.
Part of it is her fault because she knew it was getting worse and she insisted on staying home.
She's very much like, but it's okay.
No, she knew it wasn't okay because it was causing her so much fucking pain. She would literally be up for hours, almost days at a time, and pass the fuck out. Like, she wouldn't, get comfortable and go to sleep. No, she'd pass the fuck out for 20, 30 minutes at a time and wake up in pain again. And then pass the fuck out again. Like, you're not even sleeping anymore. You're passing out because of the pain.
Yeah.
Like, something's wrong, and that wasn't okay. Like, we're stupid. I hate to be like that, but you were stupid.
I agree.
She went through most of her tramadol, all of her oxys, and she started dipping into the Tylenol. I'm like, you've gone through almost all the painkillers in the house. You have to go.
I'm back. Sorry, internet cut out. It's totally fine, heathen. It's okay. Okay. 2 more fucking days of work. 2 more fucking days of work.
Poor baby.
I know. I know. Set. I know. Cry for me. Cry for me.
I won't cry for you, but I will hug you.
But your tears, I need them.
My anguish does not sustain you.
But I need it. I'm sorry. Yes. But I'm glad that I have my PNG tuber back. I gotta finish it. And then I gotta work on yours after I finish the background.
What background?
My overlay.
I'm confused.
For my OBS, I've got to make an overlay.
What's an overlay exactly?
So OBS overlay, like, let's see. And then, like, let me show you what I've got so far. And then go to here and
turn this
paste. No. You don't have to. Just go to your Discord. So, like, an overlay is where I would put, like, my character on the left side and then the background. You've seen Willow have one.
Did I?
Yeah, Willow has an overlay.
Notice.
You never noticed that she has an overlay?
I mean, I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah. You're like, I don't pay that much attention.
God. Don't make me sound like an ass.
I'm not trying to make you sound like an ass, baby.
I know. But I have a great ass.
You have a very nice ass. No one is dissuading that. No one's disputing that at all.
So do you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
Alright, sweetie. I think I'm gonna watch some YouTube for a bit.
Okay, you're just feeling the tired's hit you real good.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna watch some YouTube videos and watch people make asses of themselves online.
Oh, well, I miss you.
Oh, I miss you, Joel.
Well, I already miss you. I don't want you to go.
I know, sweetie. What day are you off?
Wednesday and Friday.
Wednesday and Friday?
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Planning on going over to your parents' house?
Wednesday I am.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you. I love you very much. I love you so much.
I love you infinitely more.
Oh goodness. Well, if you need to go rest, get some sleep. You know that I love you.
Love you more. I'll talk to you later, sweetie. Sounds like you need to go to bed.
Nah, I'm fine. I'm fine. I've only been streaming for 27 minutes. I'll be fine. I got 3.
I understand that, but if you're awake until 8 o'clock in the morning again, I'm gonna smack you.
I gotta stay up till 3 more hours.
Hey, I love you, sweetie.
All right, love you.
Love you.
All right. Yeah. All right. Switch it back to the regularly scheduled program.
Import the principles of the Enlightenment into what the rest of Europe still considered a backward and medieval country. He arranged the Russian military and bureaucracy along Western lines and required his officials to shave their long traditional beards. That was a big deal. Get rid of their big long Russian beards they'd had for centuries and dress in Western clothes. Dude was an imposing leader. He was 6'8", 6 feet 8 inches tall, during a day and age when the average European man's height was just under 5'6". He was a good 15 inches taller than the average dude. The average height for a guy now is 5'9". Having Peter the Great for a leader would be like having Shaquille O'Neal for a leader right now. I can only imagine him having meetings with other European leaders, like King George of England. He was tall, above average. He's 5'11". King Louis of the 16th of France, he was 5'6". Wonder if Peter tried to get into their heads at all. Maybe showed up for some meetings. Hello, little fellas. Hey, little guys. Would Russia would like to do much more business with your tiny man countries. And I'm like, ruffle their hair. I like you guys. You're so cute. Cute little fellas. Peter was a lot more than just a tall-ass dude. A strong military leader who crushed the Swedish army in the Battle of Poltava in 1709, a battle that raised the morale of the Russian military in Western eyes, helped his empire secure its claim to the vast Ukraine territory, that would continue to rule off and on for almost 3 full centuries. Through a number of successful wars, he expanded the Tsardom into a much larger empire than the one he inherited. Also known for founding and developing the Russian capital city of St. Petersburg, which would remain the capital of Russia until 1917. 16 years after the end of his reign, and many rulers later, his daughter Elizabeth would become Tsarista, aka Empress of Russia, Elizabeth of Russia seized power in 1741 in a bloodless coup. She went on to distinguish herself as the only Russian ruler never to execute even a single subject during her reign. She was like the anti-Ivan the Terrible. Bummer, for storytelling purposes, her nickname wasn't Elizabeth the Not Too Bad, or Elizabeth the Not So Terrible, or Elizabeth Pretty Good, Elizabeth could be worse, you know? During her 20 years on the throne, Russian blood would be shed, however, as Russia became entangled in two major conflicts, the 7 Years' War and the War of Austrian Succession. Always war going on. Elizabeth is perhaps best known for establishing the University of Moscow and spending vast sums of money on various palaces. She liked a fancy palace, like shiny things. Some starving peasants didn't think it was super cool. She was remodeling another palace or building, maybe build a new one while they were starving. Weird. What a bunch of whiners. Shut up, Sergey. It's hard to focus on what to hang diamond chandelier. But you constantly asking for small piece of bread. Oh, keep me from dying. Oh. Jokes aside, Elizabeth considered one of the most popular Russian rulers of all time. Within the year of her death, one of the most famous of Russia's czars, the Tsaristas, would rule, Catherine the Great. Between 1762 and 1796, the 6-month interval between the death of Elizabeth of Russia and the ascension of Catherine the Great witnessed the 6-month reign of Catherine's husband, Peter III, who was likely assassinated. How do people got assassinated? A lot of poison went on back then. Catherine was a Prussian princess who had married into the Romanov dynasty. During Catherine's reign, Russia was further expanded borders, absorbing Crimea, partitioning part of Poland, holding off on disparaging Polish jokes, annexing territories along the Black Sea, even settling the Alaskan territory that would later be sold to the U.S. in 1867. While the conquest went down on Catherine's watch. I always forget that Russia was the first European power to settle Alaska. The Russians first showed up in Alaska in 1741, founded a colony on Kodiak Island in 1784. Also, as so often happens with strong women rulers, Catherine the Great was the victim of malicious rumors during her lifetime. Character assassination. Some rumors that have persisted to this day, although historians agree that she took many lovers throughout her life. The rumor that she died having intercourse with a horse is not true. She was like the original Richard Gere. He never put a gerbil in his ass, and Catherine never fucked horses. Yet the rumors persist. Howdy, partners and ponies. Here's your good buddy Tom Anderson, a.k.a. Captain Whiskerhorn. Just wanted to point out that Catherine may not have had sex with a real pony, but she may have been into pony play. I would have given her a hell of a deal if she would have ever stopped into Captain Whiskerhorn's Pony Play Emporium, tack shop, and saddlery. Your trusted source of sexy bits, bridles, harnesses, halters, hooves, masks, plug tails, and more for the Quad-State area for the past 20 years. She'd have gotten the royal treatment. Ain't that right, Sarsaparilla? Hi-yo, Sarsaparilla! Away! Sorry about that, everybody. Jeez, Captain Whiskerhorn will be showing up today. Well, it makes a whole hell of a lot more sense for me to pop in than it would be for that no-good, puppy play, peddling rascal Don Doberman showing up. Now, that's enough, Tom! Sorry, hard to... refocusing now on real Russian history. Next czar. Moving along. Nicholas I. Another one of Russia's most important rulers was Nicholas I, who took the reins almost 30 years after Catherine's death. One might reasonably claim that the Russian Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, easy Bojangles, you get worked up when you talk about the Bolsheviks, had its roots in the reign of Nicholas I. Nicholas was the classic hard-hearted Russian autocrat. He valued the military above all else, ruthlessly repressed dissent in the populace, and in the course of his reign managed to drive the Russian economy into the ground. Nicholas I was also the King of Poland, Grand Duke of Finland. Through a variety of wars, he expanded Russian territory further. On the eve of his death, the Russian Empire reached its geographical peak, spanning over 20 million square kilometers, 7.7 million square miles. For quick comparison, the U.S., third largest country in the world currently by size, is 3.8 million square miles, or 9.8 million square kilometers. Russia, interestingly, is first with 17.1 million square kilometers, still huge. Still huge. Only went down from 20 million square kilometers to 17.1. Canada is second with 9.9 million square kilometers. Nicholas's reign ended in defeat with Russia's failure in the Crimean War of 1853, when the much vaunted Russian army was unmasked as being poorly disciplined and technically backward. Russia also revealed to be weak in other ways via this war. The war revealed to the rest of the world that there were fewer than 600 miles of railroad tracks in this entire gigantic country, compared to over 10,000 miles in the U.S., for example. Clearly, Russia still had a long way to go to modernize if it wanted to catch up to other world powers. 2 more czars. The first is Alexander II. A little-known fact, at least in the West, that Russia freed its serfs from the slavery of serfdom around the same time as U.S. President Abraham Lincoln helped free American slaves. The individual responsible for this was Tsar Alexander II, also known as Alexander the Liberator. Way better moniker than Ivan the Terrible. Alexander also reformed the Russian penal code to make it less harsh towards prisoners. He invested in Russian universities. He sold Alaska to the U.S. in 1867 for $7.2 million. He formally annexed the Kingdom of Poland. It existed as a vassal state of Russia into the Russian Empire. I think he's a pretty good dude. It only makes sense that he was assassinated in St. Petersburg in 1881. Apparently didn't keep people properly afraid of him. Last on our list of Russian czars is Alexander's grandson, Nicholas II, the last czar of Russia. Nicholas II witnessed the assassination of his grandfather at the impressionable age of 13. Not the best way to kick off teen years. See Papa assassinated. Nicholas's reign was mostly defined by a series of disasters. His rule allowed for the strange rise, power, and influence of the unhinged former suck subject Rasputin, the wild-eyed, pervy mad monk who used to convince women that giving him a blowjob was one way of taking the Lord's sacrament. Not even kidding. Nicholas oversaw Russia's epic defeat in the Russo-Japanese War. The 1905 revolution that led to Russia's first ever democratic body, the Duma, occurred on his watch. It drastically weakened the power of the Russian monarchy and was allowed only to prevent an all-out revolt. And then finally, during the February and October revolutions in 1917, the last Russian Tsar was overthrown by a remarkably small group of communists led by Vladimir Lenin and Leon Trotsky. Then less than a year later, in the Russian Civil War, the entire imperial family, including Nicholas's 13-year-old son and potential successor, assassinated in the town of Yekaterinburg. I think it's close. And these assassinations brought the Romanov dynasty to a bloody, definite end. No more Russian royal family, no more czars. And then it was gulags for decades. Yay! Yay! Broken bottles up asses! And all the other gruesome shit we learned about in the KGB section. Good job, communists, getting rid of a royal family and somehow making life much worse for everyone. Bojangles just laughed. None of the czars I just went over would have ever existed if not for Ivan the Terrible creating that leadership position. And how did Ivan create the position of czar? With the blessing of the Russian church that he strengthened. The church that wanted to further increase the scope of its power through Ivan. To fully understand Russian culture during Ivan's time, it's important to wrap one's head around a bit of the Russian Orthodox Church. While Stalin would usher in an atheistic communist regime hundreds of years later, it was his nation's devotion to Christianity, a strain of belief taught by the Russian Orthodox Church that allowed his cult of personality and religion of the state to occur. When Ivan was born, the Russian Orthodox Church was one of the largest ecclesiastically independent Eastern Orthodox churches in the world. Still is. Current membership estimated to be around 112 million people, around 100 million of them in Russia. Makes sense. Long before the Protestant Reformation began in the early 16th century that led to all the non-Catholic, not going to listen to the Pope anymore, Protestant denominations, Baptists, Anglicans, Lutherans, Methodists, Pentecostals, Calvinists, etc., etc. There were a few Eastern Orthodox branches that split away from Rome. Some Eastern churches split with Rome in the 5th century. Others, including the branch the Russian church branched out from in the 10th century. Christianity was first introduced into the state of Kievan Rus, that loose federation of East Slavic and Finnic peoples in the late 9th century, accomplished by Greek missionaries from Byzantium, back before the East told Rome to peace out. An organized Christian community is known to have existed at Kiev as early as the first half of the 10th century. 957, St. Olga, the regent of Kiev, was baptized in Constantinople. This act was followed by the acceptance of Christianity as the state religion after the baptism of Olga's grandson, Vladimir I, Prince of Kiev, in 988, the year the church lists as when it was founded. Under this Vladimir's successors, and until 1448, the Russian church was headed by the metropolitans of Kiev, who after 1328 resided in Moscow and formed a metropolitanate of the Byzantine Patriarchate. Yes, okay, I said it. Okay. And yes, I just threw some very uncommon words out there. I'd never said any of those out loud before this week, ever. Let's explain what these terms mean. A metropolitan in the Eastern Orthodox Church was the head of an ecclesiastical province. Originally, a metropolitan was a bishop of the Christian Church who resided in the chief city or metropolis of a civil province of the Roman Empire. and for ecclesiastical purposes administered a territorial area. So like a Roman Catholic bishop. It would be the head who would reside in the biggest church of a geographical area where that church was like the capital, kind of like the capital city of a province. The first known use of the title comes from the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE. We'll meet a few metropolitans, in Ivan the Terrible story today. Basically, think of that term as being interchangeable with archbishop, a bigwig, a church leader, and a patriarchate is the office of a patriarch, who is the kind of leader, but not really, of the Eastern Orthodox Church. Unlike the Roman Catholic Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church doesn't have a true pope equivalent. They have metropolitans, who are basically these archbishops who each oversee a region. And these, archbishops lead the church collectively, with the Archbishop of Constantinople being known as the first among equals and the symbolic leader of the other leaders. It can be a bit confusing, I know. And it's not why we're here today, so I won't spend forever trying to wrap my head or yours around Eastern Orthodox historical leadership hierarchy. For our story today, just know that the Metropolitan of Moscow took young Ivan the Terrible under his wing and sold him on this vision of turning Muscovy into a new Roman Empire, where the Russian Orthodox Church would be its Roman Catholic equivalent, and he would be its Pope equivalent. The man who would give Ivan the authority to basically act on behalf of God to rule the Russian people didn't do it out of the goodness of his heart. He did it to gain more power of his own. He tried to sell Ivan on this concept of Moscow, being the, quote, third Rome. The first, obviously, being Rome, the second Rome being Constantinople, capital of the Eastern Roman Byzantine Empire. And this guy wanted, Moscow to be the next big Christian city, big headquarters for a huge Christian empire. The Russian Orthodox Church had been growing in power in Moscow for over 2 centuries prior to Ivan's rule, thanks largely to the Mongols who conquered it. While Russia lay under Mongol rule from the 13th to the 15th century, the Russian Church enjoyed a favorable position, obtaining immunity from taxation that led to a remarkable growth of monasticism. It was a good time to be a monk. The Mongols would leave you alone if you were a monk. Monasticism is an institutionalized religious practice or movement whose members attempt to live by a rule that requires works that go beyond those, either the common man or the ordinary spiritual leaders of their religion. Commonly celibate, always ascetic. Asceticism being a lifestyle characterized by abstinence from sensual pleasures, the monastic individual separates himself or herself from society either by living as a religious recluse or by joining a community of others who profess similar intentions. So there was a huge rise in monasteries and convents, basically like nuns and monks. And for several centuries leading up to the birth of Ivan, Russian Orthodox monks, clergy, and nuns, and metropolitans, etc., kept the Russian people's culture alive while they lived under Mongol Muslim rule. And the Russian people came to be very faithful in their Orthodox belief during this time. They placed a great deal of trust in their monks and spiritual leaders. And Ivan would manipulate that trust to do what he wanted in the name of God. God wants you to be tortured. He must want it. If not, why would I do it? For I am God's chosen emperor. Who's that dude? The Tsar's power, Ivan once said, does not come from the people, but from God. By succession from the first Russian autocrat, Saint Vladimir, so he is answerable not to the people, but to God. And the people, being not godless, recognize this. Right? See what he says there? Don't fucking question me. Right? If you question me, then I guess you're questioning God. I work on behalf of God. And Ivan will fucking go off in the name of God. He mainly will go off on the boyars, Russia's aristocratic class. Boyars were powerful, wealthy landowners in Muscovy and Kiev and Rus. During the 10th to the 12th century, the boyars constituted the senior group within the Prince of Moscow's group of advisors. These entourage peeps called Druzina. Boyars occupied the higher posts in the armed forces and civil administration. They also formed a boyar council or Duma, which advised the prince in important matters of state. If the prince were akin to a president, the boyars were akin to senators, but wealthy senators, like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Warren Buffett, also senators, and bent laws to make themselves even more wealthy and powerful. Shitty for everyone beneath them, fun for them. The boyars were a privileged class of rich landowners who served the prince as his aides and counselors, but also retained the right to leave the prince's service at any time and enter into the service of another, possibly rival prince, without losing their land and money. Motherfuckers had clout, lots of clout. Some boyars at various times were, probably more powerful for all intents and purposes than the princes they advised. And Ivan hated these people. And he would go on to destroy many of them and destroy much of the clout for those who lived. Now, before we go into the timeline, let's look at how terrible Ivan really was. Start off with the Massacre of Novgorod. Ivan had Novgorod, a one-time rival city to Moscow, a city that Ivan already ruled, completely and systematically and horrifically fucking destroyed in 1570 CE on the basis of unproven and likely fabricated accusations of treason. Ivan was paranoid. He was worried the city would either side with the King of Poland and turn on him, or possibly try and form its own thing. He wanted to eliminate these possibilities. He chose to annihilate the city to send a message to other cities that he will crush you if he even thinks you're disloyal. He may have also mostly done this because he was legitimately crazy. Mental illness manifested in the worst ways is always a possibility when it comes to this guy's decision. He's very paranoid, very bloodthirsty, quite possibly not in his right mind. Ivan and his children of darkness would torture and kill men, women, and children alike in the city. Thousands and thousands would die in an organized over 5-week-long massacre. Shit went full evil in Novgorod. Ivan's private Oprichniki army made it into the city 4 days before Ivan did. They built a barrier around the city, trapping inhabitants inside. They then attacked a few monasteries surrounding the city, looting their treasuries, beating and imprisoning their clergies. That had to have been a stressful couple of days for the citizens of Novgorod.
You're that sleepy. Go get some rest. No, I've got to get stuff done.
Was the usual reason for doing this, to keep you inside. You have to know nothing is good. Nothing good is coming your way. You know, from that.
I didn't even work that hard today. I just
look at the darkness, kids.
I'm
Build wall with
always
spike on this side. Why spike inside wall? That's feel bad.
I'm always sleepy.
Feel very much bad.
That's the worst
Look,
part
they have many monks tied up. Monk guys looking pretty bloody. Oh boy, I know soothsayer. I know Oracle of Delphi. I have pretty good idea of future. It's not look good. I go drink much vodka now and try drown self in river or something. After his children of darkness and some other soldiers set things up, slapped some clergy around for about 4 days. Ivan shows up with 1,500 additional regular soldiers, sets up a base camp just outside of town. He has all the clergy that have been rounded up, beaten, brought before him, and his 16-year-old son, Ivan Ivanovich. And he accuses these people of being traitors, and he has them beaten to death. Fun bonding time with his boy. Go ahead, son. Grab sword. Cut some monk throats. grab rock. Bash monk head in. Enjoy youth. Make father proud. Beat tied up scared man to death for papa. Then Ivan and Junior greet the Archbishop of St. Sophia Cathedral, the Metropolitan, the primary church of Novgorod, on a bridge over the Volkhov River that led to the city's main entrance. And there, Ivan berates this Metropolitan, this man named Piman.
Good morning, Happy New Year. Hey, Cat. How are you? Hope you're doing
then
well.
Has him in prison, and his Oprichniki start taking all the riches from the church.
Hope everything's going good.
For the next few weeks, Ivan and his men will fuck up more churches and monasteries around the city. They end up destroying around 30 religious buildings in total. Meanwhile, Malyuta Skuratov, Ivan's Darth Vader, head of the Oprichniki, has the town's voyeurs and business leaders rounded up, brought to a special court/torture chamber he set up in the city. And there, while Ivan and Junior watch and sometimes participate, Malyuta and Ivan's henchmen go full medieval on some acid, interrogating the boyars
Hope you're
and other
doing
upper-class members of the
good.
city, trying to get them to confess.
Yes, I'm good. Woke up not too long ago, snuggling with a kitty cat and watching your stream. What you working on today? I'm just working on the comic as a whole,
dude,
just
slowly
slowly working on it.
Rods, roasted over an open fire.
So this is one of the pages.
A lot of shit they didn't
Gotta
do.
get it
They were being
done.
roasted on a spit. Hard to confess to, whatever your
Trying to get all of this done.
Whatever your torture wants you to say if you're being roasted. Yes, I did it. I told Paul King. He's my leader now. Yes. I said same thing to King of England.
Practice a little bit on
a couple kings in Africa, maybe.
With the brushes.
Maybe told some Incan king in South America. Whatever you want. Please stop roasting me. Ivan also had special frying pans created for this occasion. Had dudes fry. Not even turkey. A giant skillet like they were fucking fish fillets.
I know, Cat.
So ridiculous. And such a weird visual to me. Like a giant
I'm all very tired. I know I shouldn't be as tired as I am. I just am.
Dude, big spatula in his hand, dressed like a short order cook. He's constantly taking smoke breaks. In my mind, he looks like a Andre the Giant, like a 10 times Andre size, just working the grill. How you want these guys cooked, Ivan? Medium well. Face this side up. You like inside? Bit runny, yes? You like hash brown with guy skillet thing? And according to one source, Ivan had the archbishop killed. According to others, he had him sent to another church. I believe the death version. This version is so ridiculous. I do believe it, based on other things I've read about this guy. In the version that he has this guy killed, Ivan has him sewn up in a bearskin rug somehow.
It's okay.
The sources
churches go behind you.
I don't know why I'm laughing.
It's okay, Gohan.
So
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kevin. What you working on?
Hunted to death by a pack of hounds. I just picture them.
What you been working on? Anything interesting? Anything big? I've got a lot of projects right now.
Forehead or something.
Gotta complete
looking like a dude, like in a bear
lots of pages. Gotta complete all these sketched out pages.
Time for the common folk to take their whooping.
So, too much
men,
fun.
Women, and children tied to sleighs, which would then run into the basically like sleds, and then they just pushed them into the frozen waters of the Volkhov River. What? That's families tied to sleds. Pushed down the banks into the river. Come on, you guys! You're making this sad. Why not you yelling "Wee"? Come on! You're supposed to yell "Wee" when going for a fun sleigh ride. Those who climbed out of the water and tried not to drown were hit with axes and swords and other weapons.
And just keep growing my channel, keep growing my stuff,
German mercenary
keep working on things that I like doing.
That day, saying, mounting a horse and brandishing his spear, he charged in and ran people through, while his son watched the entertainment. Yeek! The exiled thousands of other people kicked them out of their homes, told them to get walking to Poland. You want to live in Poland? All right, get to walking. Now, it's only hundreds of miles over there. Go on, get. We did this in the middle of the Russian winter. For anybody who were sound like that.
I mean, I remade my whole overlay and stuff. Didn't draw them, but it did take a while to set up. Added some new stuffs. Other than that, not really a shit ton of food. Okay.
In any way was dead.
Not really much. Just ate a shit ton of food.
Famous
all right.
Ivan's cruelty involves a
well, that is the holidays.
Philip was the dude who dared to denounce Ivan's reign of terror.
That's the holidays for you.
Death. Toward the end of his days, this guy wrote, "It is better
either
to die
eat a lot or you think about eating a lot."
Lawlessness silently in the rank of Metropolitan. When Ivan made it to Metropolitan Philip's church, he took his anger out on everyone there. He had the church treasurer, just some dude who didn't even say shit about it. Just some dude who was good at moving numbers around. Had that dude boiled to death in a cauldron. Had another dude hanged while men took turns hacking off parts of his body. Another dude was blown up.
Yeah, I'm now just writing stuff down, trying to get some ideas. Gotcha.
What about Metropolitan Philip himself? Ivan had this guy imprisoned in a dingy cell, this monastery, chains hanging from his wrists and ankles, heavy collar around his neck. He was starved, not given food or water for days on end. At one point, he, quote, escaped the appetite of a hungry bear, it's written. I'm guessing that means they taunted him with a bear, made him think the bear was going to kill him, made him, beg for mercy for their amusement. Eventually, he was strangled to death by Ivan's Darth Vader, Malyuta Suratov, and so many more stories. Some sources say Ivan carried an iron-pointed staff with him everywhere he went, and then he would just randomly fucking whack and bludgeon people.
I've been yawning up a storm this whole time. I'm just yawning up a storm.
Doesn't like what you just had to say. You just beat you with a stick. Sometimes.
Anything interesting? Anything that you can tell us? If you can't, that's totally fine.
Target practice by his children's death.
We'd love to hear about it.
Just felt like doing that. Felt like giving the boys some target practice. Maybe
if it's like, I want to keep it a secret
under these conditions
until it comes out. That's totally fine as well.
I mean, Ivan could have your wife,
I'm not a clown for that.
Mother or father or your kids stripped naked in the middle of town. Because I don't know, they looked at him the wrong way. He thought, or because he felt like just using them for target practice, and your family would have no recourse. If you complained, you could be either A, ignored. That was best case. Best case is you're ignored. B, also horribly killed. That's worst case. Picture this happening today. You get a true sense of how outrageous this is. It's going to sound so over the top, and it is. But this is what life was like for a Russian peasant fuck peasant for a Russian anybody living under Ivan the Terrible. Because he went after the nobility as well. Picture you're out of Starbucks, you're grabbing a grande ice mocha, half a pump, trying to watch your sugar, almond milk, no whip, whatever it is you drink. Your partner grabs a venti matcha green tea latte, coconut milk, 2 extra scoops of matcha, a little more, little juice, hot, or whatever it is they drink. 2 of you are waiting for your drinks, and then President Trump rolls up with his entourage in the Starbucks, or whoever using him because he's our leader now. You know, the leader of your country, whatever country you're living in, rolls up. Your partner says, "What the fuck?" As in, like, what's the president doing here? And but Trump thinks, he said, "What a schmuck." And then Trump's like, "Her, get her clothes off and get her outside. Time for some target practice." And you're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! Let's think about this." And you try and stop some Secret Service officer or whoever from grabbing her, and that dude just fucking bashes you over the head with a club, drops you to the ground, dazing you. Then as you pick yourself up and kind of your eyes start to refocus, you see your terrified naked wife outside in the parking lot begging for her life. Her clothes have literally been ripped off of her body. And then you hear some secret, service agent go, "Run! Go on, run!" And your wife starts to run, fucking terrified, tears streaming down her cheeks, across the mall parking lot. And then you hear this gunshot. After she makes it about 30 yards. Right? You hear the Trump yell, "Show her who's the schmuck!" Pop, 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 pop. And these guys, she just gets shot up, fucking falls down dead. And then these guys pop back in Starbucks, grab the coffee. If they don't kill you, they probably beat you for a while, at the very least. And then they just bounce. Maybe if they leave joking about how funny it was. You see how she ran? Oh, shit, man. You look at her face. And then you have to go grab your dead wife's body and bring her home and figure out burial arrangements. This is what life was actually like for people living under a psychopath like Ivan the Terrible. Another time, Ivan had several hundred beggars drowned in a lake because he didn't like them. He didn't care for them. In another instance, Jerome Horsey, English explorer, diplomat, and politician who spent some time in Russia, wrote about how a minor royal, some boyar known as Prince Boris Talupa, man Ivan didn't care for, was, quote, drawn upon a long, sharp-made stake, which entered the lower part of his body and came out of his neck, upon which he languished in horrible pain for 15 hours. Dude spent 15 hours impaled on a stake. I told you he loved Vlad the Impaler. Adding to the horror, this poor bastard's mom was brought in to say goodbye to her son after he'd been impaled. "Bring mother in to talk to baby boy. I tell you, baby boy fine. He just likes to stick around here for some reason. He's sticking around here because I put him on a giant stick. You see what I did there." And then Ivan has his mom literally beaten and raped to death by his children in the darkness. The source said she was defiled to death. Then he had her body fed to his hound. This dude was worse than like any Game of Thrones character. He was terrible to the women he loved too, most of them at least. After the death of his first wife, Anastasia, reportedly beautiful and subservient woman whom Ivan loved as much as a monster like this fucker could love somebody for 8 years. He did not roast her on a spit or impale her even one time. He was not nearly as nice to subsequent 7 wives, especially to the last few. Ivan's 6th wife, Vasilia Melnentyeva, was sent to a convent after she foolishly took a lover to be basically in prison for the rest of her days. And the dude she fooled around with impaled on a stick and put just under her convent window. Wow. "You love him now? I could arrange for you to spend time together. Put you on same stick. Make love shish kebab for you two." Full disclosure about Cecilia, some Russian historians don't think she was Ivan's actual wife, but a mistress. Not that makes what happened any less savage. She'd be treated better than his next wife. She'd at least live. His 7th wife, Maria Dolgorukaya, only 14 or 15 years old when she wedded 50-year-old Ivan in 1580. On their wedding night, he found out she was not a virgin. He got pissed off. She allegedly confessed to him that she lost her virginity to another man. So the day after her wedding, next day, he has her drowned in the river. Seems excessive. Another legend about Ivan's cruelty revolves around St. Basil's Cathedral. St. Basil's Cathedral, literally the first image that pops into my mind when I think about Russia. To me, the most Russian of all images. Now a museum. It was built as a beautiful Russian church in Ivan's orders in 1555 and 1561 to commemorate both the siege of Kazan, final battle of the Russo-Kazan Wars that led to the fall of the Khanate of Kazan, also to commemorate the fall of Astrakhan, capital of the Astrakhan Khanate. The original super colorful building contained 8 churches arranged around a 9th. It's like an old cinema multiplex, but for churches. Instead of what movie are you going to watch tonight? It was like, what's church you're going to catch this morning? I don't know if it was like, but it was a bunch of churches wrapped up into one building complex. Located in Moscow's Red Square, built over the grave of St. Basil the Blessed. Architectural marvel. One Ivan legend is that when Ivan the Terrible gazed on the completed cathedral, he was overwhelmed with its beauty, and to be sure that Postnik Yakovlev, architect who created it, would never create anything more magnificent, he had the dude blinded. However, this common Ivan story certainly a myth, as Yakovlev, in cooperation with another master architect, designed the walls of the Kazan Kremlin and the Cathedral of the Annunciation in Kazan in 1561 and 1562, just after the completion of St. Basil's. Also designed the northeast chapel of St. Basil's in 1588, 4 years after Ivan's death, which would have been hard to do with no working eyeball. Perhaps the most terrible thing Ivan is attributed to having done, at least according to several legends, was kill his own son in a fit of rage. Most historians have serious doubts about this actually happening, but for centuries, filicide, the murder of one's own child, has been the Tsar's most famous terrible thing. This alleged act was immortalized by Russian realist artist Ilya Repin, who between 1883 and 1885 made the famous painting Ivan the Terrible and his son Ivan on 16 November 1581. Truly gruesome painting captures the dread and remorse in Ivan the father's face. The story goes like this. Ivan had always had a good relationship with his eldest son, but on November 19, 1581, he became very angry with his son's pregnant wife. Apparently because, I don't know, she was wearing some clothes that he didn't like her wearing. So he beat her with his beating stick, as one does. As a result, she miscarried. And Junior was, he was peeved. He was annoyed by his dad beating his wife with a stick until she miscarried. So he confronted his dad, and his father, in a sudden fit of rage, raised his iron-tipped staff, smacked his son too hard in the head, cracked his skull, and the prince lay in a coma for several days before succumbing to its festering wound. Whoopsie! And again, historians think this particular story likely fabricated, but it does sound kind of like par for the course for this dude. Despite all this violence, Ivan's reign was also a time of Russian revival and national unity and success. Centuries later, Ivan would be promoted as a national hero by dictator Joseph Stalin, who reinvigorated the legend of Ivan IV as a demigod to help whip up Russian people's confidence during World War II. Okay, now let's really get to know Ivan and further understand his rise to power in today's timeline right after a quick word from our sponsor. And now it is time suck timeline time. Hail Nimrod.
Strap on those boots, soldier. We're marching down a time-suck timeline.
All right, let's really start at the beginning. Understand Russia. Understand Ivan. Long before the birth of Ivan the Terrible, way back in the 7th century BCE, when Russia really got started, when some Greeks started some colonies on the coast of the Black Sea.
I might get something to drink in a little bit, but
warriors who originally lived in what is now southern Siberia.
I'm almost done with this page in lining. So let me finish this page.
3rd century CE, Goths settled on the
Let me
western
finish the lining in this page because it's almost done with the lining, and all it needs will be the shading.
Nonetheless,
And that won't
later,
be
the
bad.
4th century CE, the Huns invaded southern Russia. A century before the famed Attila would lead these fierce warriors to conquer an empire that stretched from Central Asia to present-day France. Bulgars, Turkic semi-nomadic warrior tribes, settled the Middle Volga region in the 5th century. It encompasses the drainage basin of the Volga River, longest river in Europe, in Central and Southern European Russia. More genes get mixed into the early Russian gene pool. 300 years later, the Khazars, another Turkish tribe, take control of the steppes and settle near the Volga. Eastern Slavs also established themselves at Kiev in the south and at Novgorod in the north of the century. More genes mixed in. In the 9th century, Scandinavians make contact with Constantinople and began to keep trade route open to the south. An important man named Rurik is established as a leader of the settlement of Novgorod. Rurik was a Viking chieftain who arrived in the Lagoda region of modern-day Russia in 862. He founded the first significant dynasty in Russian history called the Rurik dynasty. Old school Russian, like the original OG. Descendants of this dude would rule some part of present-day Russia continuously for 21 generations until 1612, 750 years. Ivan the Terrible, a descendant of this man. In 1882, one of Rurik's fellow Vikings, Oleg of Novgorod, founds the Russian state at Kiev, now the modern-day capital of Ukraine. A century and several Ruriks later, between 980 and 1015, Prince Vladimir the Great converts from paganism to Orthodox Christianity and rules the Rurik dynasty while spreading his newfound religion. His son, Yaroslav the Wise, reigns from 1019 to 1054 as Grand Prince, establishing a written code of law, and Kiev becomes a center of politics and culture in Eastern Europe. In 1147 CE, Moscow is mentioned for the first time in historical documents, just a tiny little trading outpost on a hill. In 1156, the first Kremlin A wooden stockade is built in Moscow, just north of the Moskva River. A Kremlin, by the way, historically means a fortress inside a city. Numerous Russian cities have Kremlins. Today, the name is synonymous with the Russian government in the same way the White House is synonymous with the U.S. government. Kremlin is. 1223 CE, the Mongols began to conquer the Rus. Between 1237 and 1240, the Mongols returned to finish conquering Kievan Rus, destroying cities including Kiev and Moscow. The Khan, aka leaders of the Golden Horde, also sometimes referred to as Tatars, depending on different pronunciations, will rule Russia until 1480, just 50 years before Ivan the Terrible was born in 1530. The Golden Horde was a fragment, still large and formidable, of the once gigantic Mongol Empire that would further fragment over time into various nations called Khanates that become Islamic nations in the 14th century. The leaders of the Golden Horde, descendants of Genghis Khan, during the conquering, Batu, Genghis Khan's grandson, burns the city of Moscow and its Kremlin to the ground for the first of many, many times that Moscow will burn in 1238. Moscow, very, very burnable, as you're going to learn today. The center of the Orthodox Church is moved from Kiev to Moscow in 1326. The cornerstone laid for the Cathedral of the Assumption. In 1328, the East Orthodox Metropolitan See, aka Archbishop, officially transfers from the city of Vladimir to the once tiny trading post of Moscow. Moscow's star is rising. Also, Ivan Kalita, aka Ivan I, key figure in Russian history, becomes Grand Prince of the Grand Duchy of Moscow, aka Muscovy, that pays taxes to its Mongol overlords, so it's not razed to the ground again. Ivan I would grow the wealth and power of Moscow into one of the richest principalities in Russia by utilizing the relative calm and safety of the northern city of Moscow to entice a larger and wealthier population to move. It's some tourism board version of move to Moscow. Sure, it gets cold, but we get burned to the ground less maybe. Butchered by invader maybe less than some other place. 1337, Moscow and much of the Kremlin burn again. No marauders this time, just a random fire. The wooden city didn't have modern firefighters. Whole 99 years since the last massive fire, so life's still pretty good in Moscow. There's going to be so much more burning to come. Ivan I begins rebuilding the Kremlin in 1339. Orders its pine palisades to be replaced with oak walls, which were, I guess, slightly less burny, slightly less apt to burn up. Things are good for a little over a decade. 1353, the Black Death, plague ravages Russia, claiming Ivan's disciple and successor, Simeon the Proud. Damn it. More on the plague. Check out our Suck on It, episode 125. Beginning in 1359, the Grand Prince Dmitri, Ivan I's grandson, starts to replace Moscow's wooden stockade with stone walls and a new tower, only to have Moscow burn again in 1365. Tens of thousands hurt, killed, or displaced. Third fucking time in 121 years, the city is burned to the ground. Most of the Kremlin survives. They were starting to rebuild it with some stone. And they get back to building, only to have Moscow catch fire again 9 years later in 1368. Son of a bitch! That year, Lithuanians attack Moscow, burning all the houses outside of the Kremlin's new walls to the ground. Fourth time, Moscow is burned in 130 years. Terrible place to live. You hate long, cold, brutal winters and or getting burned to a crisp. 2 years later, in 1370, the citizens of Tver, 113 miles north of Moscow, people in cahoots with the Lithuanians, come on down and burn all of the houses outside of the Kremlin's walls down again. Fifth time, Moscow is burned in 141 years. Third time in 11 years. Good thing they rebuilt the Kremlin out of stone. How much that have sucked if you live just outside the walls and your house burned down 3 fucking times. Just over a decade. Damn it! Why is there no brick guy in Moscow? Can we please get brick guy? Maybe stonemason. Concrete guy, something. Anyone who build a house out of not wood. For fuck's sake, it's too much. 1374, Muscovy rejects the authority of the Golden Horde's Khans, who will of course lead to war. 6 years later, 1380, major blow by the Russians is landed against the myth of Mongol invincibility in the Battle of Kulikovo, which was fought near the Don River, celebrated as the first victory for Russian forces over the Tatars of the Mongol Golden Horde, demonstrated the developing independence of the Russian lands from Mongol rule, which had been imposed on the Rus people for 140 years now. Giant step for the Duchy of Moscow and its rise to leadership over the Russian people, and a victory that would later inspire Ivan the Terrible to more victories against the Mongols. Also a victory that early Russians living in 1380 didn't get to enjoy very long, because 2 years later, the Mongols would kick the living shit out of them for fighting them. In 1382, Khan Toutamish, another descendant of Genghis, sacks Moscow and captures the Kremlin. The destruction of Moscow leads to the Prince of Moscow, Dmitry Donskoy, to surrender once again to the authority of a Khanate. Independence short-lived this time around. Princes of Moscow would vacillate back and forth between declaring themselves independent and being subjugated by various Khans for several decades, until finally breaking free from their rule under the rule of Ivan the Terrible's grandfather, Ivan III. 7 years later, in 1389, damn near everything in Moscow but the Kremlin burns again. Son of a bitch! Can we please get brick guy? How many times we have to burn before we learn someone to work with brick? Oh, we're going to build with wood again. Okay, that's great. Fuck it. What's possibly wrong, though? This is 6th time. Moscow burned. 160 years. They, of course, would rebuild again with wood. They were determined to keep this wooden city. Beginning in 1425, 36 years later, the Grand Princes of Muscovy began acquiring more surrounding Russian lands to increase the population and wealth under their rule, build enough strength, hopefully going to be able to fight the Mongols, again soon. January 22nd, 1440, Ivan Vasilievich, also known as Ivan III, a.k.a. Ivan the Great, is born. This guy did a lot of conquering, like his grandson would later do, but with way less insane raping and torture. That's why he gets to be great. The other guy's terrible. He would be the first prince of Moscow to call himself a czar. It would be his grandson, of course, Ivan the Terrible, who would become the first true czar many decades later. Ivan III's father, Vasily II, also known as Vasily the Blind, was the Grand Prince of Moscow, whose long reign from 1425 to 1462 was plagued by the greatest civil war of old Russian history, and various princes within Muscovy fought for power. At one point, Vasily was captured and blinded by his opponents, yet eventually reclaimed his throne. Tough-ass dude. 1448, something big happened that would allow for Ivan the Terrible's rise to power years later. The Russian church in Moscow becomes effectively independent from the Patriarchate of Constantinople, and the Russian bishops in Moscow elect their own primate, Jonas, a Russian bishop who doesn't have to refer to Constantinople. Primate, by the way, Eastern Orthodox Church's top church doctor. The head metropolitan archbishop. Not a pope, but the first among equals kind of thing, like as close as it comes to Pope in the Orthodox Church. And now the Russian Church, within the bounds of the Grand Duchy of Moscow, effectively its own thing. And this church would later bind itself to the czars, give the czars their holy power, and become basically what the Roman Catholic Church was to the Holy Roman Empire. 1452, Ivan III marries his first wife, Maria of Tver, daughter of Boris Alexandrovich of Tver, and he's 12 years old and she is 10. Different times, I guess. And their wedding night had some chaperones. Pretty creepy, if not. Next year, Constantinople, captured by the Turks, ending the mighty Byzantine Empire, former eastern half of the Roman Empire that lasted for roughly 1,000 years after the fall of Rome. Constantinople was viewed as being the second Rome. Now the idea of Moscow being the third Rome. The new massive Christian capital for the new Christian empire of Europe starts getting floated around. Religious leaders in Moscow want Moscow to kick the shit out of all the Catholics and Muslim Mongols around them and reign over a vast Christian empire where they have all the religious power, just like it was when the Pope had dominion over religion within the Byzantine Empire, and prior to that within the Roman Empire. On February 15th, 1458, Ivan III and Maria of Tver have their only child, Ivan Ivanovich, known as Ivan the Young. 4 years later, Ivan III takes the throne, becoming the Grand Prince of Moscow after spending much of the 1450s serving as co-ruler and regent for his blind father, Vasily II. He has ambitious plans to grow the power of Moscow and tell the Mongols to fuck off the kid. Now 22-year-old Ivan becomes the Grand Duke of Moscow without being confirmed as such by the Mongol Khan, breaking tradition, a sign of what's to come between he and the Mongols. He's not going to kiss the ring. He expands his territory as much as he can over the next several years while still being a vassal state. In 1467, Ivan's first wife dies, something from poison, something from natural causes. She was described as being sickly ever since she was a kid. 1469, the marriage between Sophia Kaliogina, the only niece of the last Byzantine emperor, and Ivan III, is proposed by Pope Paul II. And this shows how far Muscovy has come. Right there on the Pope's radar now. Having the Pope, propose marriage. This was done probably with the hope of strengthening the influence of the Catholic Church in Russia, in hopes of some kind of unification between the Catholic Church and the Russian Orthodox Church. Ivan III's motives for pursuing this union were probably connected to the status he would gain, tying himself through marriage to the former Byzantine Empire. Makes his claim for a third Rome more legitimate, Formal wedding between Ivan III and Sophia takes place in Moscow, November 12, 1473. A year after Ivan the Great invades Novgorod, makes it a puppet state. Ivan and Sophia would have a dozen children together, 10 of them surviving past infancy. Sophia, through her oldest boy, Vasily III, future Grand Prince of Moscow, would be Ivan the Terrible's grandmother. Next year, 1473, another huge fire. Seventh fire in the past 244 years, keeping track. One massive fire just about every 35 years. Moscow is apparently the most flammable city on Earth. The fire destroys most of the buildings, the city of the Kremlin, of the Metropolitan's Court. In 1474, Ivan III dispatches some dudes to Venice to hire some kick-ass Italian architects to construct a new, please for the love of God, hard-to-burn Kremlin. Finally, we get the brick guy. And I bet my cold rusty ass is not built shit for common law. Kremlin be great.
Where are you,
Kremlin
cat?
be great.
Where
My
are
house
you,
still
cat?
burns so much.
There you are.
1475, Aristotle Fioravanti, renowned Italian architect.
Bam. There you go. There you go, cat.
Arrives in Moscow, begins rebuilding the burnt-up cathedral of the Assumption in the Kremlin.
There you go,
Also,
Kit Kat.
1475, Ivan establishes the
Time to
first
open
Russian
shop. Have a
cannon
great
foundry
rest of
in
the
Moscow.
street. No.
Blowing shit up. That would be one of his terrible grandson's favorite pastime. 1476, Ivan refuses to pay his tribute. Khan Ahmed, the Golden Horde, now officially told him to fuck off. Khan Ahmed doesn't care. 4 years later, took a while for things to get ready back then.
How am I gonna even handle it without your inspiring?
River, an attempt to force the Muscovies to
how can I even handle it? I can't handle
Ivan's
it.
Great army kicks the shit out of it and they retreat. So, hooray! Ivan has defeated the pesky Golden Horde, Tatars, and gains freedom.
What am I even gonna do
subjugation to Khan
without heaving around?
Yatka into Muscovy.
It's fine. It's a Sunday.
1505. In 1491, construction of the Palace of Facets is completed.
Believe me, I don't want to go. I didn't think it's posted on our. I did. I saw it. I just saw it. Looks good.
Secular building still in Moscow today.
It was lit.
Lower section of Savior Tower, Kremlin Gate, also finished in 1491. July 16th, 1493, another fire in the Kremlin. Again.
I like it.
Ivan III evacuates his fire headquarters. The fire at least spares the rest of Moscow this time. October 27th, 1505, Ivan the Great dies at the age of 65, natural causes.
All of these voices inside of my hand.
Third, Ivan the Terrible's father. And Vasily III would spend most of his reign consolidating his father Ivan's territorial gains. In 1523, Moscow is truly dubbed the Third Rome. Orthodox monk Philotheus wrote letters to the Grand Duke of Moscow urging him to fight against heresies. The Duchy of Moscow and the monks who remain the last bastion of the true Christian faith. Philotheus wrote, all the Christian kingdoms have come to an end and have converged in the single kingdom of our sovereign. 2 Romes fell, a third stands, and there will not be a fourth. Ivan the Terrible would later, like a lot of psychopaths throughout history, really run with this idea of him being God's chosen warrior. In 1526,
thank you so much, General.
Old, married
very awesome.
The 36-year-old
very cool.
Salomia
thank you for
Kabrula.
Being awesome and cool.
Yeah. For decades, and they still don't have an heir to the throne. He's fucking pissed about it. And the more, and I've said this before, man, the more I do like these old historical stuff, the more I understand like why in the U.S. at least at Ellis Island they just cleaned up people's names. Some people get pissed at that. They're like, well, this is my name, but I mean it's supposed to be a pa-pa-da-pa-pa, and they fucking changed it there.
Me, Austin. It was me.
Austin. Just like when you grow up with one language, and then you encounter this other language where they put 7 extra vowels than you're used to in every word. Like, your name's fucking what? No. Your name's Smith now. Okay? So put all the harder kids kind of kurkara. Nah, we're gonna go John. Anyway. Vasily, I got that one. He's pissed about his wife not getting pregnant. He's saying stuff to his friends like, how much dick do I have to give to this bitch before she pop kid out of us? And his friends are like, oh, okay. I think I see the problem. He's doing it. No, none of that happens. But he does get frustrated with his wife, who is beloved by her people and beloved by the church. And he is frustrated, for her not getting pregnant. He convinces some boyars that it would not be good if one of his brothers or one of his brother's brood comes into power. Right? He needs to produce an heir. So they suggest he takes a new wife. And then despite a lot of opposition from the clergy, he divorces his beloved but barren wife, who hasn't done anything wrong other than just not get pregnant. And he marries a 16-year-old, Princess Elena Glinskaya, daughter of a Serbian princess. Scandal. Not many of the voyeurs approve of this choice. Right? There's a couple he consulted with. They're on board. Everyone else not on board. Church not on board because she was raised Catholic.
Now time for
not even Russian Orthodox. Right? Was this guy gonna stick his dick in the demon now? What's going on here? Vasily, so smitten with Elena, he doesn't care who approves. He defies Russian social norms, even trims his beard. Oh, gasp! To appear younger for her, this apparently was a big social no-no. Now the people are disgusted with it.
Thank you for being awesome.
3 days of matrimonial festivity.
General.
Couple consummates their marriage, and then more scandal. She doesn't get pregnant the next 2 years. Now the Russian people begin to suspect her lack of getting pregnant as a sign that God doesn't approve of their marriage. God's pissed at their leader.
You too.
Then in early 1530, she does.
Me too.
Monster is forming inside her womb. It's Ivan the Terrible time. Now we have made it back to Ivan. Makes me think of that AC/DC song. When I'm back in black. August 25th, 1530. Ivan Vasilievich. Ivan the Fourth. Ivan the Formidable.
This page is finally fucking done. Or the lines are fucking done, and now I gotta get all those other lines.
Several kilometers southeast of Moscow city center. And the people of Russia
finally,
are not
that page
overjoyed.
is done. Jesus Christ!
Marriage of Vasily III, a younger woman, a woman
or
raised Catholic no less.
As much as it is getting done right now.
Frowned upon by the Russian people. Marriage the church did not approve of. Many of the boyars did not approve of it. Even people in other lands didn't approve of it, like the Patriarch Mark of Jerusalem.
I'm gonna go get something to drink.
Wrote prophetically to the great prince, "If you do this wicked thing, you will have an evil son. Your estate will become prey to terrors and tears. Rivers of blood will flow. The heads of the mighty will fall. Your cities will be devoured by flames." Pretty accurate. I mean, but of course you'd say flames, right? How much of a prediction there was? You just knew a little bit about Moscow's very flammable history. Anyway, Ivan the Fourth's life started with this ominous warning. 2 years later, on October 30th, 1532, Ivan's only sibling, his brother Yuri, is born. And then on December 4th, 1533, the next year, Ivan and Yuri's father dies from blood poisoning. Ivan is far too young to govern, only 3 years old. Although if they knew how terrible he'd become in later moments, they might have just gone ahead and just let him rule. He might have been a better ruler at 3 than he would be for most of his adulthood. The governing of Russia falls to his mother and the Boyar Duma. Boyar Duma is a scholarly term used to describe the royal council or upper strata of the ruling elite in the 15th through 17th centuries in Russia. And Ivan's mother, young Elena, only 23 years old, doesn't get along too well. He rejects a lot of their advice, which doesn't sit well with them. They feel disrespected. And this does not predispose them to be super nice to her son. One historian wrote regarding Ivan's mom, "The new regent acted in a haughty and arbitrary manner, disregarding the boyars and relying first on her uncle, and after his death, on her lover." And then on April 4th, 1538, 4.5 years after his father's death, when Ivan is only 7 years old, mom dies, and her lover is murdered a few days later. And very likely that she was, almost for certain. She was poisoned, assassinated by a member or members of the Boyar Duma, most likely poisoned by someone working for members of the Shushki Boyar family, who would essentially take over and rule Russia when she died. Various members of the Shushki and Belsky Boyar families, arguably the two most powerful Boyar families in Muscovy, would rule for the next nearly 9 years until Ivan reached the age of majority, the age of 16. He was deemed old enough to take the throne. And Ivan would grow up to hate these boyars. According to letters he'd later write, Ivan, along with his younger brother Yuri, often felt neglected and offended by the mighty boyars from these families. In a letter he later wrote, Ivan remembers, "My brother Yuri, of blessed memory, and me they brought up like vagrants and children of the forest. What have I suffered for want of garments and food?" Paints this kind of Oliver Twist depiction of his childhood. May or may not be true, but probably definitely true that these guys didn't care for him very much, and he didn't care for them. Ivan's childhood was not the childhood he felt was owed to him as a future prince of Moscow. His childhood was full of a lot of people he didn't care about, kissing his ass, and a lot of people he did care about, ignoring him, his eyes. A historian wrote of his upbringing, "All evidence suggests that Ivan IV was a sensitive, intelligent, and precocious boy. He learned to read early and read everything that he could find, especially Muscovite church literature. He became of necessity painfully aware of the struggle and intrigues around him, and also of the ambivalence of his own position. The same boyars who formerly paid obeisance to him as an autocrat treated him with utmost respect on ceremonial occasions, neglected, insulted, and injured him in private life. In fact, they deprived him at will of his favorite servants and companions and ran the palace, as well as Russia, as they pleased. Bitterness and cruelty expressed, for instance, in his torture of animals became fundamental traits of the young ruler's character. And yes, it seems like many future sociopaths, he did torture animals as a child, or as many sociopaths when he was young. By the age of 12, he was apparently known to torture cats, also rumored to have torn the feathers off birds, gouged the eyes out of various pets, all kinds of horrible stories about what he did to animals. Also witnessed the boyars around him do a lot of horrible shit. Young Ivan watched various mentors and servants who cared for him end up getting murdered. One of his mentors was apparently skinned alive for being a traitor. It really stuck with me, man. Whenever I hear that term. Skinned alive. How possible is that? How much skin do you have to have flayed off of you before you die? Can you live with no skin? I did way too much Googling to try and find out the answer to this question. Can you live with all your skin off, flayed off? No? After all this time, I still wasn't on some type of criminal watch list. I must be on one now. Some sources say you can live for a full day after having all your skin taken off. But you know what? I don't buy it. Not all of your skin. It seems that when one was skinned alive, they had large chunks of their skin removed, but not all of it. Like most of their skin on their back would be flayed and peeled off, or maybe most of their chest skin, maybe a good deal of skin on portions of their thighs, calves, upper arms. But think about how hard it would be to have like your hands and your feet skin, or your face and neck skin, or your balls, or your vagina, taint. You would die before anyone got all of your skin. Nothing I can find points to a definitive case of one person losing literally all of their skin, like right down to their eyelids, and somehow still being alive. Not that any of that would be any kind of, consolation to someone who lost just like half their skin. Now, I don't think you'd be standing in some medieval dungeon saying, oh, this is nice. It's not near as bad as I mentally prepared for. I thought I was going to lose all skin. I have like half my skin left. I can live with this. I can make this work. I still got my face skin. Still got my hand and feet skin. It could be good look for me. Regardless of how much skin is meant or lost. Crazy that young Ivan witnessed something like that growing up. For many years, the boyars fought for control of Russia, while the young Ivan suffered quietly with his brother, neglected, used, possibly even physically abused, and then he took his anger out in various small ways. Then on December 29th, 1543, 13-year-old Ivan decides he's had enough. He's not taking the boyar's shit anymore. He's not quite prince yet, but he's going to send a message to lay off freedom with some respect, and he orders the death of one of his least favorite boyars. This is the first person he orders the death for, supposedly, saying that they were following the Grand Prince's orders. A group of guards march into the quarters of one of the cruelest boyars, arrest the man, feed him to a pack of wild dogs. That'll teach him. Ivan has just made a pretty big statement. He's in charge. He's not to be fucked with. You gonna fuck with him? All right. Well, then you're gonna get fed to wild dogs. I think it's pretty safe to assume he did not get fucked with a whole bunch after that. By the following year, in 1544, young Ivan, allegedly roaming the streets of Moscow, kind of a punk youth with a pack of associates, dishing out beatings to whoever he wanted beaten, and possibly, according to some sources, raping various women, and then disposing of their bodies so they didn't spread rumors about him. Had him hanged, buried alive, fed to wild animals, drowned in the river, or to believe all the rumors. Some of this might just be slanderous accusations written about those who didn't like him. He did have many enemies. However, there is a decent chance some of it is true. According to most sources, he did spend his identity-shaping years just becoming a brutal sociopath. Also, really got into the church.
Yeah, by the way.
He began to spend a lot of time, beating and raping. Also, a lot of time
studying
in the church.
I love it.
Under the tutelage of Moscow's metropolitan, Macarius.
Love it.
Who started really selling him on that third Roman. January 16th, 1547, Ivan is crowned Grand Prince of all Russia. His regency has come to an end. He does something no prince of Moscow had done before. He has himself crowned with the church's blessing, administered via his buddy Macarius, Tsar and autocrat of all the Russians, in Moscow's Cathedral of the Assumption. This new title symbolized an assumption of powers equivalent, parallel to those held by Byzantine emperors, Tatar Khans, Roman Caesar. The political effect of this was to elevate Ivan's position to extreme, unquestionable, super-duper leader of everything. This was Macarius' play to have Muscovy be the new center of a new Byzantine empire. Ivan's coronation as Tsar, an elaborate ritual modeled after those of the Byzantine emperors. When it was over, he declared all of Russia united under his rule. There's a new sheriff in town. You'd best listen to him He is not afraid to lay some hurt on your ass. He is also, I cannot emphasize this enough, batshit fucking crazy. We have a new, very unstable sheriff in town. Buckle up, Moscow. It's going to be a wild ride. February 3rd, 1547, 2 weeks after his coronation, Ivan marries the boyar Anastasia Romanovna. She is one of the Romanovs. Even they shortened one of their names. They're like, we fucking cut the knot. Yeah. Nonsense. Romanovna, doesn't roll off. Romanov. End with the hard consonant. Stop adding all this extra shit. She's one of the Romanovs, the family who would later be the last Tsars to rule Russia after her son's death ends the Rurik dynasty, and her lineage begins a new bloodline with Tsar Michael I. She was Michael's great aunt. Anastasia, selected as the best bride for Ivan from a large number of suitable mates, brought to the Kremlin specifically for a selection process. All the noble families throughout Russia given an invitation to present their eligible daughters. Said he picked from between 500 and 1,500 girls. My God. After declaring himself basically the emperor of Russia, young Ivan immediately takes aggressive action against the Tatars of Kazan, who live some 400 miles southeast of Moscow on the river Volga. They persistently raided Muscovy for loot and slaves for the markets of Persia and Turkey. They've been at it for hundreds of years, and he wanted to prove to his people that he was worthy of his new title of putting an end to that shit. Ivan built the fortress of Savask, the east bank of the Volga, as an advanced base to attack the Khanate of the Kazan. Apparently, it was prefabricated with numerous components floated down the river like there's some piece of IKEA furniture. Pretty clever. Ivan threatened a holy war against the Muslims, to which the Khan of Kazan replied, "All is ready for you here. We invite you to the feast." That's a pretty badass shit to say. You send this guy a letter like, "Hey man, fucking coming for you. I didn't loot my shit." And it's like, "All is ready for you here. We invite you to the feast of blood." Khan didn't fear Ivan one bit, and then easily defended his lands against Ivan's army, against their initial attacks. Not a good way for Ivan to start his reign. Not a good look. You try to make it appear as if God is on your side. Then things get a lot worse quickly for Ivan with another fire. Who would have guessed it? What do they build their houses out of in this town? Kindling? Paper mache? Soaked in kerosene? Solid town to be a contractor in. Joe Pays and I were talking about this. So picturing like some wealthy contractor living just outside of town, in a huge castle made out of stone and gold and jewels, with a giant lumber yard behind his castle. Oh, we need to be rebuilding again. I'm happy to rebuild. No shortage of work here in Moscow. I get with the wood ready. I don't know why that guy was Scandinavian. Yes, major fire strikes Moscow for the 9th time. So many fires. This time, since the city's a little bigger than it had been a few centuries prior, it does more damage. It destroys 25,000 wood dwellings. Damages portions of the Kremlin. Even blew up powder stores in several of the Kremlin's towers. This is a big fire. Fire started on June 24th, 1547, barely 6 months into Ivan's reign. And it displaced about 80,000 of his people. Killed anywhere from 2,700 to 3,700. A sum that didn't include kids for some reason. They didn't bother to count how many kids got burned up. I don't know, 5,000 kids, whatever. We'll make more. Led to widespread poverty amongst the survivors. Russian author and historian Nikolai Karmison described the blaze. The fire flowed like a river. Soon the Kremlin,
such a lovely
part of the city next to the Kremlin, and the trading quarter burst into flames. The crackling of fire and the cries of people from time to time were drowned out by explosions of gunpowder.
Such lovely
parts of the city. Making things worse, like much of the rest of Europe,
emulation
strongly in shit like witches, wizards,
for the ears.
The dark powers of the
Please
occult.
do not stop the ASMR.
Rumors almost immediately started to spread as a result of sorcery.
Yes.
Dropping a lit pipe. These rumors focused on the Glinsky family. They set the fire. Fucking Glinsky. Using their witchcraft. Muscovites believed that Anna Glinsky, Ivan's grandmother, quote, by sprinkling the houses and streets with water in which human hearts had been soaked, set the city alight. That witch! And they felt the rest of the Glinskys were evil as well. So mobs of scared, angry people. Like picture like the classic medieval scene of a mob of peasants holding torches and pitchers. Kill the witch! Find the witch! Burn them! Started hunting the Glinskys down. Like they're going through the burnt remains of this city looking for these people. Burn the wizard! Kill the stone them! That kind of vibe. Yuri Glinsky, Ivan IV's uncle, literally runs through the streets being chased by the mob. Tries hiding in a church, only to be dragged out into the street and stoned to death in the square. Then the mob continues to search for other families. Must kill them all! Burn the witches! few days later, a mass of city residents turned up at a royal palace in the village of Vorobyovo near Moscow, where Ivan IV had gone to escape the fire. They demanded the Tsar's grandmother be brought out to be punished. Yeah. Ivan the Terrible is terrified. He later reflected on this event. Fear ignited in my soul and shivered in my bones. Ivan was able to convince Muscovites he was not hiding any of the Glinsky family members, and the crowd left without killing Kremlin. He would be haunted by the memory of this for the rest of his days. Important to note that as barbaric as Ivan was, he also was a reflection of the times he lived in. Shortly afterwards, Ivan returned to the city, saddened by what he saw. The poverty created was devastating, left thousands possessing nothing more than the clothes on their backs. He turned his attention away from attacking the Mongols and focused on fire safety.
Not even a single joke?
He ordered a new law by which all Moscow residents had to place a barrel of water in their yard, another one on the roof of their house. They were also ordered to construct ovens and fireplaces in kitchen gardens and waste grounds far from dwellings. The burning of ovens in houses forbidden during the summer. Also has the first water pumps invented for the purpose of fire extinguishing built in Moscow. Finally, we get some guy who do something about fire. We still not have fucking brick guy for common folk. Still wood, but now we have water for wood, and that is good. So far as a leader, Ivan not so terrible. 2 years later, in 1549, the first Zemsky Sobor, Russian Parliament, also known as the Assembly of the Land, convenes. Generally composed of representatives from the ecclesiastical and monastic authorities, the Boyar Council.
I don't know, hearing crunchy sounds are good. Hey man, if that's what you want to hear.
Ivan was the leader, right, by birth, but the rest of the people have a voice in government. And Ivan hates it. Soon he'll figure out how to rule without having to run anything by anyone. 2 years later, in 1551, Ivan introduces a new legal code. The new system aims at the elimination of corruption and oppression on the part of centrally appointed officials by means of popular participation in local affairs. Various localities had already received permission to elect their own judicial authorities to deal with crime. Now, in areas whose population guaranteed a certain amount of
try my best
treasury, other locally elected
to give you the crunch.
Centrally appointed governors. And even when the governors remained, the people could elect assessors to check on those governors. Interesting. Could impeach them, when necessary. So he weakens the power of much of the nobility by doing it. Now he keeps his title again as being a hereditary one, but he's now taken away the power of the nobility. More people can be voted. Practice. He also further weakens the nobility by canceling the right of the boyars to basically kill any peasant they wanted for any reason at all. He could still do that, but they couldn't do that anymore, which makes life a little better for them. And how nuts is that? Before he has to pass a law to get rid of that. Hey, no more just kill whoever wants for any reason. That's probably not good. I still do it, but not for everyone.
Did you know that the ASMR is kind of stream category? Yeah, I did.
He just does this stuff.
I did know it was a kind of stream category. I don't think I have a. I think I have a nice mic. I don't think I have the right mic for it, but I do have a good mic.
Yeah, again, not a man of the people. Following year, 1552, after getting Moscow rebuilt a bit,
it's not a stream tag. It's a stream category, not a tag.
Ivan Young Tsar refocuses on kicking that Mongol ass.
Category, not a tag.
He wanted to before the fire. He can whoop a little bit.
I don't think I will be a part of that category then.
By leading a Russian army, perhaps 150,000 strong, to besiege Kazan. A walled,
but hey, you never know.
Town on a hill on June
I might be somebody's thing.
They make it.
They might be like, oh man,
719 kilometers.
Have you heard that goat?
Miles away,
love hearing his ASMR of him crunching and munching.
First time he's really trying to take another capital. He had some little skirmishes.
It's like, no, I haven't heard his crunching and munching. Is it better than most crunching and munching?
Muslim, Jesus versus Muhammad. My God, helping him, your God. No,
I don't know these days.
He loses. The boyars and peasants back home likely revolt. His reign could be over. No pressure. He has infantry, cavalry, arquebusiers. These soldiers armed with this early type of gun. Heavy artillery, barrels of gunpowder. The Muscovites bombard the wooden walls of the Khanate with cannons, but are unable to break through. Their infantry assaults are initially beaten back, and then storms and torrential rain blows down the Muscovite tents, turns their camp into a muddy bog.
God damn you, dog.
Early on in the siege,
I don't know why he barks for no reason.
That's about right. Then they have some crucifix.
It's 32 degrees.
Brought to the scene When the bad weather stops, they take this as a sign that God,
winter weather advisors,
big
seafood
morale boost, our God
forecasts.
wants you guys dead. Tatra prisoners.
Cloudy feels like 22. The skies will be clear. The low will be 28. Temperature below freezing.
That didn't work. The Mongols were ruthless. The Tatra bowmen screams of their own by shooting their own people.
So it'll be freezing.
Ivan's next play was to blow up their defenses. He has men known as sappers dig tunnels under the walls of their fortress, explode barrels of gunpowder, which knock down sections of the walls above them. These men also blew up the town's water system, harder to wait out a siege when you run out of clean drinking water. After almost 6 weeks, the defenses are weakened enough for Ivan to give his men the green light to storm the town. The Tatar defenders are overwhelmed. Many are slaughtered that day. Ivan had done it. He had taken Kazan. Kazan fell on October 13th, 2 days after Dmitri, his first son and third child, was born back home. He's having a good week. He's 22. Life is going pretty well. Things look rough for a second when his capital city was on fire and crazy locals trying to burn his grandma alive, being a witch. Things are better now. Now he has an heir to the throne, major victory under his belt. He returns to a hero's welcome in Moscow. In Kazan, he has the Muslim population expelled, kicks them the fuck out. Russian Orthodox Christian colonists are moved in. Mosques are replaced by Russian Orthodox churches, and the Tatars of the surrounding country forced to convert to Christianity or be killed or exiled. He's building that third Rome. Then he gets really sick. Following year, the spring of 1553, gets really sick as people did all the time the days before vaccines and antibiotics. And he thinks he's going to die at only 23 years old. Also very common. He gathers the top boyars to his bedside, asks them to swear allegiance to his son Dmitri. These fuckers, who also think he's going to die, they refuse. They're like, nah, we don't like your son. We don't like your baby. They swear allegiance to Ivan's cousin.
Oh, good.
And then, unfortunately for these nobles, Ivan does not die. And also unfortunate for them, his infant son Dmitri does die on June 23rd. Now he really hates these guys. They've forsaken his dead son. They can't take it back. They can't make it right. They betrayed him on his deathbed. They're worried for the rest of his days. They're not loyal to him. He's paranoid for the rest of his days. These people are just waiting for the right opportunity to remove him from the throne. He's not really wrong. You know? Also in 1553, Richard Chancellor, the explorer and navigator, becomes the first Englishman to penetrate the White Sea and establish relations with this new tsardom of Russia. Ivan was pleased to open sea trading routes with England and other countries, as Muscovy did not yet have a connection with the Baltic Sea. That entire area was contested by neighboring powers of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and the Swedish Empire.
Put that to the side for just a little bit, just a moment.
Furs and other Muscovian goods. Ivan gives Chancellor letters to take back to England to invite more.
So I have to reset the pen tablet.
Because of this new relationship in 1555, the Muscovy Trading Company, also known as the Russian Company, is established. It was an English company, the first major chartered joint stock company, the precursor to the type of business that would soon flourish in England and finance exploration and colonization of the world by England. The Muscovy Company had a monopoly on trade between England and Muscovy all the way until 1698, and then it survived as a trading company all the way until the Russian Revolution of 1970.
Oh, good.
Ivan's, he's making all kinds of comments. He's making most of these moves without consulting the church or the boyars. Previous princes of Moscow had been seen as more powerful than the boyars, but not by a lot. They were viewed as the most powerful noble, but still a noble. But Ivan IV, Ivan the Terrible, he's something new. He's his own class. He's a czar, an emperor. He's going to rule as he sees fit. He was religious, but he felt the church had no business interfering in the affairs of the state.
Oh, good. The pen's not working.
Remember when God delivered the Jews from slavery? Did he place above them a priest or many rulers? No.
Artist 22.
He placed above them a single czar, Moses. What he calls Moses the czar. He's linking himself to Moses. For the affairs of the priesthood, he ordered should be conducted not by him, but by his brother Aaron, forbidding Aaron to be occupied with worldly matters. But when Aaron occupied himself with worldly affairs, he drew the people away from God. Do you see that it is not fitting for priests to do the work of czars? Also, when Stefan and Birin wanted to seize power, remember how they were punished for this by their destruction, to which destruction they led many sons of Israel. You, boyars, are worthy of the same. This all reads as just do what I fucking tell you. I'm in charge. The church, for the most part, they didn't mind this too much. Because, as Russia grew more powerful, so did the church. As mosques were converted to Orthodox chapels, with various people forced to convert to the Russian Orthodox religion, the boyars, they didn't love it. But as long as they get to keep their lands and profit off new business ventures like the Muscovy Trading Company, right? to relationship with England. They were happy enough for the time being to do what they were told.
Well, this is fun. Yeah, it's not recognizing the pin at all. Hold up. Let me power it down and then power it back on. Huh? Okay. Alright. Okay. Okay. Alright. I guess I'll just have to end stream because it's not recognizing the pin at all. Fun. Oh, good. So I guess I gotta end stream anyway, so that's fun. Fun. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming in. I do appreciate you. You guys are amazing and stupendous and wonderful. Oh, boy. Great. Fucking fantastic. All right. I gotta find out what's wrong with it. Raid. Real. Let's do. Yeah, real. Kazoo. Alright, guys. Thank you guys for being amazing and awesome and stupendous. Thank you guys for being sweet. I really do appreciate you guys. I really do mean it. Even though tonight's not great, that doesn't mean you guys aren't. So gotta save everything and then I gotta close it off. So thank you guys for being amazing and stupendous. Thank you guys for being awesome. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.